Reza, let me turn to you. I mean, Bob mentioned realities. Is this, can we decouple from China as a bio and pharma industry? Is that a reality? Can we do that?
Yeah, the simple answer is no, and we shouldn't. If you look at US GDP, we're about $23 trillion. China is 14 trillion. So you're talking about two countries with the highest GDPs in the world. So for us to disconnect from China doesn't make much sense. And I would even go one step further. Cost is important, but we have to look at value. Cost is an element of value, especially for smaller companies. Speed to clinic, ability to execute on the technology, having good regulatory and compliance in mind. Those are all part of value that a CDMO will create for smaller companies. And again, now what works for a large pharma will not work for a smaller company because there's just no leverage that small companies have around CDMOs. That's a reality of life. I don't think we can disengage from China. I don't think we should disengage from China. And then please keep in mind, again, Biosecure Act is very narrowly focused. It will not stop US manufacturers to stop working with China. That's not the intention. And this whole idea of onshoring chemical manufacturing of raw materials into US or Europe, I really don't believe the capacity exists today and is not going to exist for the next 20 years. This is very different than like the CHIPS Act that we have with semiconductors. Right. With CHIPS Act, you're thinking about just a very few companies. Here you're talking about more than 400 or 500 companies that are involved in raw material and RSM manufacturing for small molecules.
Yeah. I'll stick with you as I'm going to go to a question, and we might be covering the same ground here, but it's a specific question, so let's answer it. Considering the Biosecure Act, wouldn't India be a good option for new sourcing strategies for raw and starting materials?
Yeah, I think the answer is India is always in the picture. So is Korea. So is Japan. So nothing will stop us from looking at broader supply chain strategy. So the Biosecure Act on its own doesn't tell us we should go to India or we should not go to India. So India would be a consideration. It's always been a consideration. So to me, the Biosecure Act is not an inflection point for India. And then again, keep in mind, many Indian companies get their raw materials from China.
Yeah, that is. Go ahead. Go
sorry,
ahead.
Louis. Sorry. I was just going to add to that. Certainly it's been said several times that most of the raw or a large majority of the raw materials that India will source will come from China, especially raw materials. The other thing that folks should remember too is that many of the Western European tried, trusted CDMOs and commercial manufacturing organizations all generated China-based subsidiaries in those areas. And so to try to disconnect from that, I think it's difficult. You could be going to, let's say you do successfully change from a China-based manufacturer and you go to Western Europe and you say, well, these are our allies. But then you find that, they've got their raw material manufacturing based in China as well, or they're going to get raw materials from China as well. It's a very difficult thing to sort of unwind, and not exactly sure it's realistic. I think getting back to, and not to change things, but just getting back to what can we do about this, right? I think we have to go back on the tenets of good supply chain hygiene, right? And that good supply chain hygiene, first and foremost, is diversification. And I'm sure my panel colleagues have a lot of other good suggestions in in that area as well. But just wanted to add that to the story.